What up, what up, what up, what up, what up, what up, what up? What's good, people? What is up? What is up?
Well, hello, sir.
Hi, how are you?
How are you? How are you? I am great. So good to have you here.
I
So
know.
good
Thank you
to
so much
have
for
you.
inviting me.
I know. I know. Well, hey, everybody out there, everybody watching, and everybody that may be listening through podcast methods. Welcome to our first and inaugural episode of Red, Blue, and Black with yours truly, L Teddy 27, and the
Cam,
handsome man to my, what is that, my right, my left, something
you're right. You're right.
to my right. Kamz, what's going on, sir?
It's been a busy day. It's been a busy
It
day. Lots of big
has.
announcements. A lot of
I
energy coming from
know.
Minnesota
We got a
today.
lot of stuff to get to. So, how does it feel not to be in the chat but be up on screen? Welcome to the party, pal.
It's a bit odd. I feel like I can talk my ish more in the chat.
Really
I do.
interesting.
I'm egregious in the chat, actually. So I'm surprised I haven't been timed out. But we'll make do being on camera today.
And hello to everybody in the chat. Thank y'all so much for coming up. Everybody, I'm just gonna highlight your names, but hello to y'all collectively. Thank y'all for being here. We're gonna have a good time tonight. Feel free, those of you on the live chat, to ask questions of us, and we will do everything we can to answer those questions and get to them. You all are as much a part of this conversation and this show as we are, you all tend to ask all the right questions, say all the right things, do all of the right things, and we expect nothing less from all of you all. So please, please, please ask away. We certainly want to get to as many questions as we can. So, like you said, sir, and for the people out there, this is all politics, but politics about us, because don't nobody be caring about us, and we got to talk about us. Too many times people focus on everybody else. It's always under the umbrella of the people of color. But what about us black people? I'm just saying.
That's a great question to ask.
So, yeah. So we got the big announcement today. Kamala Harris picked her vice president nominee, her running mate. And yeah, we had all of that, but we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some Cori Bush today. We know that we have primaries in the great state of Missouri today, and we certainly want to highlight Cori Bush and what's going on with her and how that could impact other black members of Congress. And we'll certainly spend some time on that. But I know a lot of you all want to know more about Tim Walz, and we'll make sure we get to that. So, but we found a few clips, like 2 clips that we found a little humorous, just some political humor before we dive into the weeds. So, let's see which one I'm going to play first. Anyone you want to see first, sir?
I'll leave that up to you. I'll leave that up to you. This is your show. I'm just.
Boy, here he go, being modest. Here he go. Anyway, I'll do this one first. I thought this one was cute, but since we're going to talk about Tim Walz, I'll do this one first.
Hi, younger me. I've come from August 6, 2024.
Oh, cool. You got the time machine to work.
It's Walz. The VP pick is Walz.
What are you talking about? Who's Walz?
No, Walz.
Yeah, that's what I said. Walz.
There's no T.
Sure sounds like T.
Never mind. What day is
It's
it?
June 27th, 2024. The presidential debate's tonight.
Oh boy, you better sit down. So the debate does not go well for Biden.
Okay, well, it's not like he's going to drop out. Seriously?
But before he drops out, someone tries to assassinate Trump.
What?
And then a few days later, Trump picks his VP.
Please make it anybody but...
It's J.D. Vance. Just embrace it. And then Biden gets COVID.
Malark.
And shortly after that, he drops out.
So Harris...
Officially becomes the Democratic nominee, and she picks...
Walz. Who is that?
He's the governor of Minnesota, a veteran former teacher and football coach.
Oofda.
As governor, he's made it possible for undocumented immigrants to get driver's licenses. He's expanded background checks for guns. He's legalized recreational marijuana. And he's enshrined rights to abortion and offered protections for people seeking or providing gender-affirming health care.
Wait, hold on. Someone tried to assassinate Trump?
I thought that was a great way to sum up the last 2 weeks in 1 minute. Like, if there was anything to sum up the last 2 weeks in 1 minute, that was a quick way to do it. I didn't think it would be possible. It's a lot happened. Yeah.
It's been a lot that's been passed in Minnesota.
It's been a lot.
It's been a lot.
It's been a lot. I got one more for you, and then we about to dive in.
It's a tough day in the Indian community. We just found out that Kamala Harris has apparently switched from Team India to Team Black. I'd just like to take an opportunity to try to woo you back, Miss Harris, to the Indian side. First, every time you order Indian food, and from now on, naan included on the house. Second, if your computer ever goes down, we'll offer you free tech support. Also, if you want the political rival scammed, we will offer them tech support. If you need someone to do your taxes, we got you. Overall, I'm just astounded. I didn't know it was possible to go from Team India to Team Black. I thought that was something that was reserved for brown boys that like Drake. So, Ms. Harris, that's it. That's the pitch. Come back over to this side, or do whatever you want as long as it's not a couch. Akka, vapas vandudu.
Well, I like the Drake part. Y'all know I can't stand Drake. Anyway, so we woke up this morning. Well, you woke up this morning to the news. I think I probably woke you up too, huh?
No. Everyone was texting me or calling me this morning talk about the pick. So,
and what was your first thought when you first found out?
disbelief, because I did not think that the Democrats were going to make the smart or savvy political move. And I will say this, it's not that Walz is like an energetic and exciting candidate. He is non-polarizing to several groups within the Democrats, specifically progressives. He doesn't alienate anyone. So it's going more back to that, let's say, the big tent of the Democratic Party.
I will say I was shocked when I heard the news this morning. Yesterday, you know, I said once we knew it was down to him and Josh Shapiro, I said that I was sure she was going to acquiesce to the demands of the establishment and pick Josh Shapiro. I just knew. I also knew there was a lot of baggage with Josh Shapiro, but I think someone got in her ear and was smart about it. Probably the same people that had to get into Joseph Robinette's ear and say, "Listen, ma'am, you could end up like Joe and lose the entirety of the young vote, as well as those Asian Americans that align that may be of Middle Eastern descent." And yeah, that wouldn't go so well.
I think
So
if
yeah,
you didn't have some of the baggage, it probably would have gone that way.
yeah, hmm
I
absolutely.
think that it would have gone that way because that's the candidate that the establishment preferred.
I mean, you had the sexual harassment stuff. I think that was going to be too much for him to get get outside of or get from behind. I think that was too damning. And it was too close. Maybe in a few years he can get past that, but right now it'd be too damning for
Well,
him.
you see what the Democrats did to Al Franken. So we were just talking about this.
We were
Like,
just talking about what
we
they
have
did
to
to
have
Al
this
Franken.
moral superiority. We've got to be perfect. While the other side, you can be a 34-time convicted felon and still run for president. So we shoot ourselves in the foot sometimes, I think.
So the people want to know who this man is, and periodically during this broadcast, I'm going to give you facts about Tim Walz. I have a list of 55 facts about Tim Walz that may give you some insight on who he is. Kamz can give you insight on some of his policies, because Kamz is from the great state of Minnesota. Well, not from there, but lives in the great state of Minnesota, so he knows him. But before we get to that, some of the pros about Walz being selected in this race really, I think, will lead to a victory in November. Walz, if you look at his policies, and we'll look at some of those today, he is seen as progressive. He's not as progressive as he's seen, but he is seen as progressive, and he has, over the course of his career, has moved much more toward the left than toward the center, because he was more center when he was in Congress. If you look at his voting record in Congress, he was much more center, but as a governor, he's been much more left leaning. And I would argue he's more left leaning than Kamala. I will argue that. Now that's an argument we could have, Kamz. I absolutely feel he's much more left leaning than Kamala, and Kamala is a freaking as they call her, a San Francisco liberal.
Corporatist Democrat is what I would call her, but that's my
No, I'm saying that's what they call her.
Well, they don't live in reality though, so I don't.
What do you think of some of the pros about him in this on this ticket?
He's very pro-union, right? Josh Shapiro had some baggage with unions, and to be honest, you're not, as a Democratic candidate, going to win without the support of unions. So, the blue curtain has been lost over the past few presidential elections because the Democrats have moved away from labor. And just, an interesting thing, the Minnesota, it's a Democratic Farmer Labor Party. So it's the DFL. So it's only affiliated with the National Democratic Party. So it has labor in it. So the labor rights are pretty important here, but they're also the agribusiness concerns. So the smaller farmers, they're thinking about those concerns as well. So the rural people don't get left behind, because I think sometimes the other side can say that Democrats are only focused on, the populated areas, and they don't care about flyover country.
I love, and we're going to talk about labor. I love the fact that he outlawed non-compete clauses. I'm here for, because compete clauses. If you work in corporate America, non-compete clauses, dear God above, are not, oh my God, they're the bane of your existence. Please understand. And also I remember when the nurses were striking, he and his lieutenant governor went out there on the picket lines with the nurses when they were striking during COVID, because of how they were being treated and overworked. Unions all over the Midwest are happy with this. He is you've seen every single union, major union, and even small unions come out full-throated support for him. Let me give you, while you're saying that, let me give you a few of the facts to know about Tim Walz, the people trying to learn who he is. I have 55 of them. Number one, he was born in West Point, Nebraska, a town of just 3,500. Number two, he graduated from, looks like Butte High School, but I think it's Butte High School, Butte, in 1982. He graduated from high school. He credits his rural upbringing for his values. He says, quote, a small town that had services like that and had a public school with a government teacher that inspired me to be sitting where I am today. Those are real stories in small towns, end of quote. Number four, he enlisted in the Army National Guard when he was 17. Number five, in his state capitol office, he displays hundreds of challenge coins that he's traded and collected for years around the world. Number six, his father, a school administrator, died of lung cancer when he was 19. He said that moment fueled his views on healthcare access. Quote, the last week of my dad's life cost my mom a decade of going back to work to pay off hospital debt, end of quote. Number seven, he graduated with a social science degree from Chadron State College in 1989. He earned a Master of Science in Educational Leadership from Minnesota State University in 2001. Number eight, he spent a year teaching in China after college before returning full-time to the Army. He traveled to China with one of the first government-sanctioned groups of American educators to teach in China high schools. Number nine, he still speaks Mandarin. And number 10, he taught on the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota. And he said, quote, I tell folks that managing a high school lunchroom for years trained me for the craziness that can overtake Washington, D.C., end of quote. And I'll give you 10 more in a little bit. So, what can you tell the people about him living in Minnesota that we don't know?
So one thing that people might not know about Minnesota is the Democrats only have a 1-seat majority in the Senate, and they've been able to pass all this legislation because we've got a Democratic governor, a Democratic Senate, and a Democratic House. So Minnesota is not a blue state; it is a purple state. The last trifecta was 12 years ago, and that was the Republicans. So it's not as blue as people think it is. So the fact that we've been able to pass a lot of this legislation, I was just very excited about. Felons that have completed their complete sentence, they had their voting rights restored. Like that was a big one for me. Free lunch to all students. That was a slam dunk. Codifying abortion and reproductive rights into state law. I love that as well. Paid sick leave, 12 weeks of paid sick leave.
Which is the longest in the country.
starting in 2026. So very progressive things. Because like this is a high tax state. I'm not even gonna level. It's a very high tax state, but the quality of life is worth it. I feel like you're getting a bang for your buck. You're actually getting things that benefit the average American citizen.
Also, economically, one of the things that speaks to a lot of parents are the fact that the child tax credits in Minnesota are much higher than a lot of other states. He raised a lot of money for child tax credits going back to parents. He had a lot of money going back to parents for child tax credits there. So a lot of good stuff happening there. Something else that he's a huge proponent of that I care about is his stance on all things LGBTQ. And he's a huge proponent of LGBTQ. He tells the story of being the first faculty sponsor of the GSA at his high school, and this was back in the 90s. And where I come from, back in the 90s, you weren't gonna have nothing like a GSA back in the 1990s, because that was, you know, people were still getting gay bashed, and he was the high school football coach, and he was the sponsor of the GSA, which I think is huge at that time. Like, it goes a long way to show that he truly is someone that means what he says. So I also think that he can speak to rural America more so, I think, even than Josh Shapiro. More so even than Josh Shapiro.
I think the voting record also shows that too, right? He's on the record voting against a lot of trade deals. They don't tend to benefit the rural population in America. Like NAFTA, all it did was export jobs. It's really caused a race to the bottom for wherever we can go to manufacture at the lowest cost. So we've lost a lot of manufacturing, and it's like Dems did vote for that, which is why we have lost some of our labor affiliated voters. They saw their jobs leave. It's always the economy. We have to always think about that. It's the economy, and the economy is local. Like, we can say that we're doing fine, but if small town America, they're dying, of course they're not going to co-sign what you're doing. So I think that it's important to look at the policy positions as well, because he's not really pro trade agreements. He's voted against a lot of them, actually.
Hey, everybody in the chat, I'm not ignoring you. I'm doing 8 things at once, so I apologize. Ronald Dobbins mentioned the blue dot in Nebraska. Some people may not be familiar with that. In Nebraska, the blue dot we know as Omaha, because Omaha, even if the state goes red, Omaha can still go blue, because Nebraska divides their electoral college votes. And so that's how you can get to a 270, because you can get that one electoral college vote from Omaha, Nebraska, and that can get you from 269 to 270, which has been needed before. So yeah, that's what the blue dot is. And him being from Nebraska, well, born in Nebraska, I'm sure that will help. Oh, let me get to my other 10 facts. I'm sorry. You're supposed to keep me honest on these facts. Number 11, he rose to the rank of command sergeant major before retiring from the 125th Field Artillery Battalion in 2005. And that makes him the highest ranking member of the military in our Congress. And he served for over 24 years. Number 12, he met his wife, Gwen, a native Minnesotan, as they were both high school teachers in temporary classrooms. She was irked by his loud voice disrupting her classroom. He does seem kind of loud. I could see that. Number 13, they eventually moved to Mankato, Minnesota, and both worked at Mankato West High School. She's an English teacher, by the way. Number 14, he taught geography and coached high school football. Number 15, he was the faculty advisor of the school's first gay straight alliance in 1999. Number 17, he has 2 children, Hope and Gus, both of which were conceived through IVF, and that is number 18. Both of his children were conceived in IVF. His daughter recently graduated from Montana, from a college in Montana. Number 19, his first job in politics was as a member of former Massachusetts Senator John Kerry's 2004 presidential campaign. They hired him to be the campaign's county coordinator as well as district coordinator of vets for Kerry. Number 20, he said he was inspired to join John Kerry's campaign after he took a group of high school students to a George W. Bush campaign rally, and security interrogated one of his students because he had a Kerry sticker on his wallet. That's number 20. Wow. Let me we know we had the rally today, and we have some clips from the rally, so we'll talk about the rally. We could talk a bit about the rally. Did you watch it?
I watched the highlights of it.
I did watch it. Well, let me take that back. I watched Josh Shapiro, and then I watched Kamala, and I watched Tim Walz. Now, let me say this. Let me play the clip first. Josh Shapiro came out there and did the damn thing. Here's the clip of Josh Shapiro.
Each of us has a responsibility to get off the sidelines, to get in the game, and to do our part. Are you ready to do your part? Are you ready to form a more perfect union? Are you ready to build an America where no matter what you look like, where you come from, who you love or who you pray to, that this will be a place for you? And are you ready to look the next President of the United States in the eye and say, "Hello, Madam President"? I am too, so let's get to work.
Josh Shapiro said, listen, I know y'all ain't picked me. I know I have some baggage, but let me give y'all a little taste. Get some of this. Let me show y'all what I'm working with. Let me get over here and cook a little bit. He gives me a little, in his presentation, he gives me a little Barack. He does. I ain't gonna lie. He gives me some Barack.
I actually really enjoyed what he had to say. He had like we were talking about in the last Run Your Mouth. He has that presidential look, right? And there's a science behind it. There is a science behind it. People like attractive, because I don't see it, looking people to run for president.
Oh Lord. I really think he was derailed by that situation in his office. Even though it doesn't involve him directly, the fact that you didn't get rid of that person immediately and fully, separate yourself from it, I think that derailed his chances, because he absolutely was the one they wanted. And I do absolutely think in a few years he will be up and coming. If not, let me say this. The good thing about the Democratic Party, and I've been saying this for the last 2 years, there are a lot of young, capable people. So you got Shapiro, you got Wes Moore, you got Warnock. I'm not a Mark Kelly fan like some people are. I don't think he has a personality to me or charisma, but that's just me.
He's fine. He's I would describe him as milquetoast.
I think I'll say like this. He reminds me of Joseph Robinette. And think about, if you know the history of Joseph Robinette, the only reason Joseph Robinette is president right now is because we had a fucking lunatic as president for the last 4 years. And the people said, listen, we need to breathe. We need some normalcy. Because remember, he had run like 4 or 5 times and lost every time he ran. He never won. He did not have the charisma for it. People wanted sleepy, you know, even killed Joe to balance out the craziness that we had. But I'm not gonna lie. I like Josh Shapiro. He was good today. He was strong. He was strong.
I thought he did well. I thought he did really
Mhm.
well. He had a unifying message. I think he's going to be great on the campaign trail, especially in PA, because that is a much needed state if we are looking to get to 270. So
Yeah, and I think Josh Shapiro is going to certainly be on the campaign trail in Pennsylvania with them. I wouldn't be surprised if they took him to some other states as well, just because he's a great speaker. Why the hell not? I would. Why not? Um, we also have a portion of what Tim Walz said, and here it is.
Like all regular people I grew up with in the heartland, JD studied at Yale, had his career funded by Silicon Valley billionaires, and then wrote a bestseller trashing that community. Come on. That's not what middle America is. And I got to tell you, I can't wait to debate the guy. That is if he's willing to get off the couch and show up. So.
I was completely shocked that he threw that in there. That came hard. I ain't gonna lie. The couch part at the end, I was like, "Oh."
he is a vet. We have a very interesting sense of humor, is what I would say.
I also like the fact that Josh Shapiro said his mantra is the 3 letters, and I didn't think he was gonna say it. He came right out and said it. GSD, get shit done. I said, oh, so we're cursing before the vice president comes out. Okay, Mr. Governor. But yeah, the fact that he put the couch in there, that if he's willing to get off the couch, oh yeah, that's going to be a sound bite. Oh yeah, for the rest of the campaign. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I love how he coined the weird, and that's really just stuck to them. Like, it's just weird.
Because they are.
He framed
They
it
really are.
Like, why do you care that much about what people are doing in their bedroom? Don't you think that's weird? And then everybody was like, yeah, that is kind of weird. Why do you care about that? So he's good at making sound bites, I would say.
He's absolutely going to do that. And like I said, he has the shtick of the middle America. You know what I'm saying? He has that whole shtick about him. You know, like the people say, he gives you, okay, I need you to come help me on my car. Help me fix my car because I don't know what's going on over here. You know?
Yeah, that's what he gives you. A lot of people overlook how most people have to feel about a candidate. It's a parasocial relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're more excited to vote for a person they feel they could sit and have a beer with. That's some people's barometer for how they feel about a presidential candidate. Could I sit down and have a beer with this person?
I was trying to pull the video of him and his daughter when he was talking about the turkey. And the daughter took him on the slingshot ride. They went to this fair, and the daughter took, for those people who haven't seen it, they go to this fair, and the daughter, he says there's this tradition, one old thing, one new thing. So he takes his daughter to this restaurant or this place at the to eat at the fair, and his daughter was taking him to get on the slingshot, and he didn't know what the slingshot was. And so he tells his daughter, and we're going to go have corn dogs afterwards. And the daughter says, no, I'm vegetarian. And he was like, so that means turkey. And the daughter says, turkey's meat. And he says, not in Minnesota, it's special. And that's just how you can see, that's how people would talk in that area. Like, no, this is Minnesota. Vegetarian means turkey and not beef. That's what that means in Minnesota. So I mean, it's just that gregarious attitude and trait that he has about himself. I owe y'all 10 I owe y'all 10 facts. I'm sorry. Number 21, he was first elected to Congress in 2006 in one of the biggest House upsets of that year. The district home to both the Mayo Clinic and the Hormel meat packing firm had twice voted for George W. Bush. Number 22, he was the highest ranking enlisted soldier ever to serve in the U.S. House and only the fourth Minnesota Democratic Farmer Labor Party member to represent his district. Number 23, he defeated incumbent Republican Representative Gil Gutnecht, despite being outspent by close to $500,000. 24, he won re-election 5 times in southern Minnesota's mostly rural conservative 1st district, serving in the House for 12 years. Number 25, when he arrived in the House, he was elected to share the freshman class presidency with Representative Paul Hodes of New Hampshire. Number 26, he was named the ranking member of the House Committee on Veteran Affairs in 2017. He focused on issues such as veterans, mental health, suicide, and pain management. He also called for funding to research medical cannabis treatment for veterans struggling with post-traumatic stress disorder and chronic pain. 27, more than half of the bills he co-sponsored between 2015 and 2017 were introduced by non-Democrats, meaning he can be bipartisan. 28, he once earned an A rating from the National Rifle Association and the group's endorsement. In 2016, Gun and Ammo magazine included him on its list of top 20 politicians for gun owners. 29, he later denounced the NRA and supported gun control measures such as an assault weapons ban during his first campaign for governor in 2018. The NRA completely downgraded his rating. Quote, I had an A rating from the NRA. Now I get straight Fs and I sleep just fine. End of quote. It should also be noted that he donated every dime that he was given by the NRA to charities for gun victims and gun violence. Number 30, shortly after the deadly Las Vegas shooting in 2017, which killed 59 people, he donated campaign contributions from the NRA, which is part of what I was talking about earlier, to a nonprofit that supported the families of military members who died and were severely wounded while serving. That's my next 10. So that is my next 10 on Tim Walz. So let me say what this means about Kamala Harris. I know we're spending a lot of time on Walz, but what does this mean about Kamala Harris and what she, how you think she'll govern? And I'll let you go first. What does her picking Walz mean about her administration, her as the nominee, and moving forward?
I'll say this. I believe that it shows she's more willing to listen to the party. She's not making some of the same electoral mistakes that I believe Hillary Clinton made. Listening to people that have their ear to the ground, that have more of a pulse on what's going on, like the Midwest, it could go either way. It really could go either way. Like there's no telling how anyone's going to vote if the economy is one of the biggest issues that most people are complaining about right now. So I think that she's smart to use somebody that's like, he can speak plainly, he can relate to people, and he can spin what he's done policy-wise and how it's impacted the average American. So I think it was a smart decision on her for that. But it's also, I think, trying to unify the party before the election. Trying to give progressives some sort of olive branch, because he is seen as a super progressive person. And I think that the progressives they're not dissatisfied at all. They're actually pretty happy.
And you see all sides. You had AOC fully endorse him as well as Joe Manchin, and those couldn't be two polar opposites. If there are, if there were two polar opposites in the Democratic Party, there you have it. Joe
Joe
Manchin
Manchin
on
is
one
not a
end.
Democrat, but
Well, he's
anyway,
not a Democrat. Yeah, he's
he's not a
a
Democrat.
Republican. But the fact that he gave a full-throated endorsement along with AOC shocked the hell out of me. But then there's that. What I hope is that serendipity happens. I hope this is very serendipitous. And serendipitous because of everything that went on with Josh Shapiro and him not being the nominee and them seeing what somebody who is more progressive does to galvanize the Democratic Party. And what I hope that it wakes up the Democratic caucus and helps them understand that they can lean more left, because people see this as her doubling down and going much more to the left as opposed to moving toward the center. You're going to hear those talking points over and over and over and over and over, that this was the wrong move because it makes her look much more progressive. But what I hope that shows when she wins, what I hope that shows is you can lean more left. You can embrace the progressive caucus and those progressive leaning members of your base, because let's be clear, the largest faction of the Democratic Party is the young vote. They have the most numbers. Those are the ones who you're alienating the most, and they are the ones who tend to lean more progressive. So I hope that in this moment of serendipity that we got the establishment pick to not be picked, that it will get them to see maybe the error of their ways and how they deal with the progressives, and that they will be more inclined to let them have a seat at the table and truly get in front of the electorate. So that's what I hope it means for the Democratic Party as a whole. In terms of Kamala, I do feel like it proves that she doesn't always have to go, she can go against the grain. I do also think that she will be very different from Joe Biden. I think she fell in line as the VP. She knew her place. She knew her role. She had all of the right talking points, and she did that with fervency and zeal. But I think that when you see her roll out what she wants to do, then I think she'll be very different from Joe. Now, if we're checking boxes, she checked off the VP box. Now she really has to start to put some weight on it. So we need to see real policies. That's the next big thing, and I'm sure we'll see that probably going into the DNC, which is in a week and a half. Well, about 2 weeks from yesterday is the DNC. Yes, in 2 weeks. So I think that she is 2 weeks. By the time we get to the DNC, she should have outlined all of the things that she wants to do for her administration, and that's going to be the next thing that is going to be telling for her, having us really see her put on the paper, one, how different she is from Joe, and two, what her policies and ideologies are. People accuse her of being this crazy radical progressive, and she's really not. She's really not. And so I'm curious to see. That's the next big thing she has to do. She really has to formalize her agenda, her for her administration and what she wants to do. Because you can't go into a debate not having spelled out what you want to do. I hope too, and this is the last thing I'll say before I do those next 10 points. I hope the Democratic Party also learns the error of their ways and never again have a DNC this late into a presidential cycle. That was the dumbest thing in the world. And they did that because they said from the beginning they weren't going to have a primary, which was stupid. I'd say that was stupid back then. But to have a DNC damn near almost at the end of August?
Yeah.
Like, really? Like, you got a set of brass balls to to just say, yeah, screw it, we ain't gonna do it till the end of August. Like, really? So there's that. Mm. All right. 10 things. 10 more things. Then we'll go over to our girl. Please put your questions in the chat. I hope I didn't miss any questions. Has somebody said, has Bernie endorsed Kamala? I believe he has. I think I saw that the DNC is August 19th through the 23rd.
Yeah, he already did it. He's
yeah. Matter of fact, yeah, he did. Because the whole progressive wing did. They did. I remember seeing that because Pramila did it. AOC was right after her. Bernie was right after her. Then you saw Elizabeth Warren. The whole progressive wing did.
Yeah, I think Bernie did it like last week in Portland. At that Portland rally.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I missed any other questions. Please put your questions in the chat. I don't think I did. So, all right. She would be ready. Nori's note says she would be ready at the DNC. Her team has met the moment at every turn, building the plane while they fly. That's true. That is true. And I have no doubt that she will. I know she'll have to put her agenda out there. I'm just curious to see because you know me, we'll go through every point of her of her agenda and what she wants to do and talk about what that means about her political ideologies and where that goes. So Sean, we got to have you up here one day. Sean is well versed in politics and heavy in the political arena. So Sean, we'll have you up here maybe next week Tuesday. I'll hit you up, Sean. Maybe we get you up here next week Tuesday. We could talk about some stuff. All right, let me get you 10 more facts. I'm on 31. Walz. Tim Walz is an avid hunter and scoffed at JD Vance for talking about guns when, quote, I guarantee you he can't shoot pheasants like I can, end of quote. That's what he said about JD Vance. 32 in 2019, he left the House to run for governor of Minnesota. He beat Republican Jeff Johnson by more than 11 points. 33, he frequently defends his policies such as the Universal School Meals Bill signed into Minnesota law earlier this year as common sense. Quote, what a monster. Kids are eating and having full bellies so they can go learn, and women are making their own healthcare decisions, end of quote, he said jokingly. 34, violence erupted after police killed George Floyd in Minneapolis in May 2020, an incident that led to protests against racism and police brutality across the nation. Republican lawmakers issued a report later that year criticizing Walz's administration for not intervening quickly enough to prevent looting and arson. Quote, I certainly believe our administration, whether it be the National Guard, the State Patrol, or the DNR, Department of Natural Resources, our frontline folks responded in a noble and heroic manner. They saved lives. A one-sided report coming out right before an election isn't as helpful. But if there is helpful advice in there, I'll certainly take it. End of quote. It should also be noted, since they're talking about the George Floyd in that number, that many people tout the fact that he specifically took the DA off of that and put well, I can't think of this man's first name. Keith Ellison. Couldn't think of Keith Ellison's first name. Keith Ellison on that case is the reason why we got a conviction, because many people were saying had the DA stayed on there would not have been a conviction.
She's
there.
Trash.
Yeah, and
She's
so
trash.
And he made that call to put Keith Ellison on that case.
That was very unpopular. Is how I'll phrase that. That was very unpopular.
35, in recent weeks, he is credited for popularizing the Democratic Party's latest line of attack against the Republican ticket when he called Trump and Vance, quote, these really weird people, end of quote. 36, he told Politico in 2023, Quote, when we're running against the generic Republicans, our races are always really close, but there's no such thing as a generic Republican. These guys are weird. Once they start running, their weirdness shows up, and especially with the nominee on the other side. I don't think it's that surprising. End of quote. 37, he told the New York Times that his comments about weirdness are about Trump and Vance, not Republicans generally. Quote, and weird is specific to him. I'm certainly not talking about Republicans. I'm not talking about the people who are at those rallies. I'm hearing this from my Republican friends because the people at those rallies, they're the ones that can most benefit from the messaging, from the message we're delivering. End of quote. 38, last year, Barack Obama praised Walz when Minnesota Democratic Farmer Labor Party gained control of the governor's mansion, the state house, and the state senate. 39, he first met his lieutenant governor Peggy Flanagan when he attended Wellstone Action, founded after the 2002 death of Senator Paul Wellstone, to train progressive organizers, activists, and candidates. Quote, I showed up and had a fantastic young trainer who turned out to be Peggy Flanagan. That's when we started our friendship. End of quote. And 40, after Minnesota legalized recreational marijuana last year, Walz appointed a hemp shop owner to be the state's top cannabis regulator. The next day, cannabis entrepreneur Erin Dupree stepped down from the role after the Star Tribune reported she had sold illegal products at her hemp shop and had federal tax liens and judgments against her. Minnesota's nonpartisan government watchdog, the Office of the Legislative Auditor, later found the governor's office missed some standard background check steps before the appointment of Erin Dupree. And that is my next 10. Anything else we need to know about Mr. Walz before we go and talk about our girl?
I think one thing, like when he signed the gun law that gave us the universal background checks, they limited no knock warrants. But I think the really big thing that a lot of people don't know is that bill also established the Office of Missing and Murdered Black Women and Girls, to promote the safety of Black women and girls and to end violence and trafficking against that particular population. Because, you know, we talk about missing white woman syndrome, but we always ask, what about when we're missing? What about when we're the recipients of that violence? And there was another case that he actually took over where it was a 23-year-old Black woman was killed in my city. 2 teenagers were behind her murder. And the DA was just like, oh, well, we'll just try them in juvenile court. And Walz intervened and was like, no. Because the family was very upset with it. Because it was like, it was heinous. It doesn't normally happen around here. So he's had to come in a couple of times because she thinks that she's a defense attorney versus a prosecutor. So he's had to step in a couple of times to ensure that justice is served for people that look like us.
Absolutely, absolutely, and thank you for that information. Because think about it, for those of us that don't live in Minnesota, we don't get that local news feed that tells us all of the great things that he has done. Because that part about what he that for that thing that he did for Black women and girls, missing Black women and girls, we would have never known. And I don't think mainstream media would ever have told us that. I don't think they would have ever told us that. So there's that. So I still have 15 more things to give y'all about Walz, and I'll do that periodically. But we do have to shift and pivot toward this race with Cori Bush in District 1. Dear God. So for those of you who don't know, Cori Bush, the sitting representative for District 1 in Missouri. And in that district, you have the western part of St. Louis. You also have the city of Ferguson, where we know Mike Brown was killed. Um, and there's a lot of people that will say the Black Lives Matter movement really started there in Ferguson. Some other people say it started other places, but Cori Bush, she came out of that activism, and she won in 2020. She wasn't expected to win, but she did. She won her seat again in 2022 by 73% of the vote. She got 73% of the vote. Her district was seen as one of the safest districts in all of Congress. And we're here today because the American Israel Political Action Committee decided that, yeah, we don't want no parts of Cori Bush in Congress because Cori Bush speaks truth to power, and Cori Bush calls out a genocide when there's a genocide happening. And so just like they did with Jamal Bowman, they began to put millions of dollars into ousting her via the primary. The difference is this: with Jamal Bowman, they full-throated let you know, we are AIPAC, we're doing this as AIPAC. Whereas they knew that the Israel-Palestine, Israel-Hamas situation is unpopular in that in that area of the country. So they did it through their super PAC, United Democracy Project. That's their super PAC, and they funneled the money through there so as not to be so it doesn't look like it's attached to AIPAC. And she is in the battle for her political life right now. I just checked the polls. 18.4% of the polls are in, and right now she is behind. Wesley Bell is her competitor. He has 63.8% of the vote with 15,274 votes. She has 33.1% of the vote with 7,929 votes. And there's a third candidate, Maria Chappelle Nadal, who has 2.5%, and that's 588 votes. Now that's less than 20% of the vote. They say it's an estimated roughly 107,000 more votes to be tallied. So there's still a lot of votes there. So that's all of the updates. That's the backstory. I will throw it to you, Kamz, to add your commentary.
Well, to co-sign what you were saying, I think a lot of her trouble came when she called Israel's response to Hamas an ethnic cleansing campaign. She made no friends when she also boycotted Benjamin Netanyahu's speech to Congress and called him a war criminal.
No, she went, but she was sitting next to Rashida Tlaib, and they were holding up the signs calling him a criminal. They were holding up the signs calling him a criminal. I think it said war criminal on one side, it said something else on the other side. I don't remember what it said on the other side, but they were not here for him.
I mean, and they spent what, 15 million to unseat Bowman?
No, they spent 23 plus million to unseat Bowman in New York. So spending 9 million in St. Louis probably goes further than that 23 million they spent in New York.
Well, Bell is just very pro-Israel, so I'm not sure, because he was going to run against Josh Hawley.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that somebody gave some donations, and he's running against Bush now. So
that's true. He was slated to run against Josh Hawley for that Senate seat. And instead they pivoted and had him run for Congress to oust a member of the squad. You also, as we were prepping for the show, talked about his history in Ferguson and how that upset black people. So tell the people a little bit about that as well.
I'm sorry, what was that?
His history in Ferguson.
He ousted the person that declined to prosecute after Ferguson. So he came in and unseated the incumbent there. So that's where his sort of run starts. This race is so, to me, messy because they're bringing so much of Ferguson into the mix that it makes me uncomfortable, because it's like, are you trying to profit off of black pain? I don't know. But I think that this goes to show the infighting that the Democrats have. It doesn't look good because we continually alienate the progressive wing of the party. But my generation has bucked the trend where we're not becoming more conservatives as we get older. And Gen Z is even further to the left of us. So you're losing future voters if you continue to have these bad policy positions. To be quite frank, I care more about my student loans than I do about Israel. Like, that doesn't matter to me. I feel like we need to figure things out over here. And it's weird to me that you have so many black people that are pro-Israel when the Ethiopians that are in Israel get treated like trash.
Yep. Child, please stop says, to be honest, I don't think no one person owns a congressional seat. I hope she wins, but I'm okay with Wesley Bell too. Sometimes it's time to move on. I think too many representatives stay too long. Here's the problem that I have with Wesley Bell. The problem that I have is this: you are being funded and your pockets are being lined by AIPAC. And that's the problem that we have with the Democratic caucus. Now, the establishment Dems, Pelosi, Clyburn, my frat brother Hakeem Jeffries, and all of the establishment Dems, their pockets are lined by AIPAC. AIPAC, they do the bidding of AIPAC. And let's be clear, AIPAC could give a shit about our black asses. Now, if we're going to keep it black, let's really talk blackness. They could give a damn about our black asses. Mind you, the Netanyahu government over there, who they're fully backing, is more conservative than our most conservative faction of the Republican Party. They're not even liked by people in Israel. And these people are giving full-throated support. And I don't even think that Cori Bush has been in Congress long enough for people to have the stance to say, well, people be in there too long. She's only been in there 2 terms. It's not like, some people that have been in there 20, 30. 40. We just buried our girl Sheila Jackson Lee. She was in the goddamn Congress for almost 30 years. It was like 29 years. So
Maxine has been there for a while.
Right. Maxine have been there since God was a child. And the other part about it is the Democrats AIPAC and other PAC, because there are other PACs like AIPAC and others of their ilk. My thing about it is this: they don't want anything progressive. And y'all know I've talked until I'm blue in the face about their stance on progressives and how they hate progressives. And they do everything they can to oust the progressive, because people who lean more progressive see Israel for who and what they are, and they want our tax dollars not to be going over to Israel to pay and fund a government that is counter to our own political ideologies. We wouldn't even stand for the stuff that they have there here. Netanyahu got rid of their equivalent of the Supreme Court. He got rid of them, disbanded them, said, thank you for coming. Please drive safely. Anything that looks black over there, if we really want to be honest, they are racist. They are not like their ancestors. See, they have ancestors that fought with us in the civil rights movement and things like that, this is not them. The people running the Israeli government right now are not those people. These people are racist. If you only knew what they were doing to Palestinians, not just in the Gaza Strip, but in the West Bank, if you only knew the things and atrocities that were happening over there, and these people are giving full-throated support. They're not doing anything to help black issues. They're not doing anything to advance the cause of anything that's pro-black. And what they do is they line the pockets of black people in the Democratic Party, forcing them to do their bidding. And then we have a situation like what we got tonight with this. Look at Really B. Look at her and her mess. Look at her and her foolishness.
I also want to say this, like, a lot of people are not cognizant of this fact. Israel is by far the largest recipient of foreign aid from the US. Now, since 1946, we have given Israel over $300 billion. But forgiving student loan debt is a bridge too far. That's too much money. But yet we're all fighting these wars now. And I will say this: most of the aid that we give them, they are required to purchase arms from us. So we continue to keep the war machine going because we know that that's our economy.
The military-industrial complex.
Yes, there you go.
Now, I know we're supposed to be talking about Cori Bush, and we are going to. But if we really want to get to the meat and potatoes of what this is about, that is why she's being ousted, because she called truth to power. And here's the other thing that they're doing. They expect us as black people to be too stupid to see the forest for the trees. So what they're doing is they're running campaigns, ads on other issues. They don't dare mention Israel. They don't dare mention Hamas. They didn't even fund this under AIPAC. They funded it under the UDP so that it doesn't seem like it came from AIPAC. And they're running campaign ads on the fact that they're saying that, oh, she inappropriately is paying her husband with government funds. And that's just not true. We covered that here on this platform. Her husband owns a security company, and she hired her husband's company to be her security. Why would she need security? Because she's a progressive, and she's someone who gave full-throated support for the Palestinian people, which caused her and other members of the squad to receive constant, perpetual death threats. People have threatened her life. Members of Congress have threatened her well-being and personal safety. And so she has to have added security, which isn't even given to her by this country. She's not even given security or Secret Service detail by Congress at all. So she has to have extra added security, which she pays. And her husband has a security company. I'm just saying. I don't know. Maybe
I think maybe we're looking at this from the wrong angle. My disappointment is with the Congressional Black Caucus.
Yeah, talk about it, please. Talk about it.
I want to drag them real quick. Please. So the Congressional Black Caucus was founded in 1972. Mm-hmm. What was one of their first major goals? Ending apartheid in South Africa. Like, literally, the CBC has historically been known as the conscience of Congress. Because they were speaking truth to power and bringing up all these uncomfortable facts, calling it out, because we've been on the receiving end of it. Mm-hmm. But as it relates to the Palestinians, they've never acknowledged or condemned Israel's occupation. They've never said anything about their ever expanding illegal settlements. They said nothing about their violations of international human rights law. They said nothing about the forcible displacement of Palestinians. They said nothing about the apartheid situation that they have going on in their own country. But yet this is the country that we continue to give billions to each year.
And that was the point that the Israeli government is one of the, and we talked about this, more so than Russia did in 2016. One could say the Israeli government has been involved in American politics and has, deleteriously infiltrated American politics more than any other country in the world, even more so than Russia. Because let's be clear, if you start lining the pockets of those same black politicians that were full-throated against you, guess what you do? You shut them up. And that's what they did. They said, oh, y'all want to talk about apartheid? Y'all want to talk about all these bad things? Yeah, let me make sure y'all ain't paying attention to us. Here goes some money. Here's some money. Oh, here's some more money. Oh, here's a few $1 million. And when Citizens United happened, here goes the floodgates. The fucking floodgates open when we had Citizens United. The floodgates open. It was, and there's no way to put the toothpaste back in the tube anymore. So now you have people carrying the water for AIPAC and won't dare call out what Benjamin Netanyahu got going on.
Very disappointed in the CBC. Very disappointed. And I don't
They've
think
lost their way.
They don't represent the interests of their constituents at all. Not all of them. Not as a caucus. Some of them individually do, but as a caucus, no.
They've lost their way.
No.
The other part that they better wake up and get a clue about is what we talked about earlier, how this was one of the safest seats in Congress, seen as one of the safest seats in Congress. And if they could so easily oust Cori Bush, there's nobody safe. Nobody in the CBC is safe then. Listen, they were silent when Jamal Bowman was ousted. You didn't hear a goddamn word from the goddamn CBC when AIPAC went after Jamal Bowman, a member of their caucus. And now we have Cori Bush. And I don't give a damn if Wesley Bell is black. Y'all are not. This ain't about Wesley Bell. He's a goddamn pawn. The people behind this ain't black like us and ain't members of the CBC. But they'll let it happen. And now you've given them the blueprint to see exactly how anybody, definitely in the CBC, that they want to get rid of. Oh, they have the blueprint now. If they're successful again tonight, this is the blueprint. And every member of the CBC should feel threatened. Every single one.
And it's going to be very interesting that they have this this strategy of specifically targeting, black, congressional representatives. What you going to do when you need our vote? I mean, because it's like, you do not, like, there's really nothing that you've done for us. A lot of the major civil rights legislation, the Roberts Court has just thrown out. So what do we have at this point? The cornerstone legislation, y'all have gutted that. It's a meaningless piece of paper at this point now. So what are black people really getting out of this? So, but you need us to show up.
No, but black people as a whole ain't getting a goddamn thing. The individual politicians are. This is about, these people have sold their souls, and this is about them getting rich. This is about them having lavish CBC parties and them doing all of the things that they can so that they can be their own celebrity in their mind. Because it's not about the people who started the CBC back in the day. This isn't about, Rangel and Barbara Jordan and all of these people that were back in the day. Hell, y'all always touting Jim Clyburn. I told y'all he done lost his goddamn mind. Remember, Jim Clyburn is responsible for being in bed with the Republican Party so that he could gerrymander a district just for him, which caused them to lose Democratic districts in South Carolina. It's just ridiculous. So goddamn ridiculous.
That's also why we got Biden. Biden was limping along in the primary until the southern states came into play. And Jim Clyburn was just gung-ho about Biden.
But you know why that is? Because like I said, you got to follow the money. Follow the money. Jim Clyburn pockets are lined by AIPAC. Know who Joe Biden is. Joe Biden is heavy. Israel. He's harder in line with Israel than even Obama was. And so AIPAC can go to Jim Clyburn and say, yeah, we need you to give full throat to support to Joe Biden because he's going to support anything we got going on over there. So go ahead and give him his support because that's what we want. A mess. And tell me, and here's the other thing that I'm going to say. For all of the black people, this is the shit that pisses me off. Since we talking black, let's be real black. For all of the black people that sit up there and talk about, well, what did Barack Obama do for black people? What did Joe Biden do for black people? What has Kamala done for black people? Y'all are looking at the wrong people to do something for black people. The people who you need to fucking be looking at, asking what did they do for black people, are those members of the CBC. Those are the people who are supposed to be doing shit for black people because they're the ones who pass laws. It's not the fucking president. This shit has to go through Congress, and nobody's holding their feet to the fire. They're always like, well, what did the president do for black people? What did the president do for black people? What did the president do for black people? I need you to pull the records of the whole Congressional Black Caucus. Go line by line. What did this Congress member do? What laws did they pass that affected black people directly? Since that's what we're doing. When the fuck have they sat on the floor of Congress screaming from the rooftops about what should and should not be done to help the majority black districts to which they are elected? Because let's be clear, most of the CBC are from districts that's majority black. This is America. And they're not even out there trying to serve the constituents that elected them. Don't go ahead, Kamz, because I'm about to spike out. Let me take some more of this juice.
Oh no, I was going to let you continue because you were saying everything that I wanted to say. I just feel like they don't care about what's really going on in their districts. They're too busy insider trading and lining their own pockets versus being concerned about what's really impacting black people all across America. That's what I thought the caucus was for. But I mean, they condemned Marjorie, you know, that crazy one. That's the last thing I can recall them doing was checking her. I don't know what they've done like recently. I didn't want Joe. I'm gonna make that clear. I didn't want Joe, but Joe's what we got.
I know I didn't want Joe. I wanted no parts of Joe.
I ain't want
none at all. Lest we forget. I'm just saying.
And I'll say this: like a lot of these members of the Congressional Black Caucus, they've been there for a while. What have you done? What do you have to show for it? A lot of these people have been like the oldest one, 91. What have you done? What have you done? What is your cornerstone legislation that you've done since 91? Or are you just collecting a paycheck on the taxpayer dime?
You gotta follow.
And I feel like to a certain degree, we don't hold our elected representatives accountable
at all.
Because I'll give you a local story. The county commissioners had something that was scheduled tonight where they were going to vote on raising their pay 49%. And everybody sent them emails. No, you're not. Not with our money. And you know what they did? They backed down. But when you are politically apathetic, you will continue to get nothing. People don't even follow, policy doesn't have anything to do with me. It has everything to do with you, unfortunately. I mean, there's so many different things that I have issues with in America. But when you look at why things are the way that they are, It is an intentional policy decision. The interstate system. Is it just a coincidence it went through all these middle-class Black neighborhoods? Is that a coincidence?
All Black.
Is that a coincidence? No.
Nope.
It was deliberate.
Mm-hmm.
Zoning laws are racist, but people don't think about that. Because why is it that I can look at the zip code, and if I can see what things aren't in your zip code, I can estimate your life expectancy? There's a reason why Black kids have a lot more asthma instances, because of the things you allow to be zoned in these Black areas. But it's intentional. And what is the Congressional Black Caucus doing?
They're giving full-throated support to a genocide across the globe where billions of dollars are being funneled into, but you don't want none of these billions of dollars to go into our neighborhoods. You got governors across the freaking country, major Black cities in these states where governors are gutting our civil rights. And you got little to no, the only members of the Congressional Black Caucus that I see out there fighting, authoring bills on the floor of Congress, screaming from the rooftop, are the members of the goddamn squad. The rest of these motherfuckers out here having lunch with AIPAC, over here having dinner with lobbyists and other people lining their pockets, while their home constituents are getting their rights stripped from them at every fucking turn. Voting rights gone. If we want to talk genocide, what about the genocide that law enforcement has on Black people in this country? Since we want to talk genocide, we're talking even, health rights to health, not just women's reproductive rights. Do you know there are states right now that are removing, that have passed laws that says that your insurance company does not have to cover you to receive things like PrEP or HIV treatment at all? These things are happening. Your children are getting Black history removed from their curriculum, and you're sitting by and just acting like nothing happened.
This is like this is normal.
Like it's just okay.
And I just don't understand how you can't teach it, because our history is American history. You just can't talk about the 60s without talking about the civil rights movement.
Because here's the deal. In the year of our Lord 2024, guess what? Teaching Black history is now a far left leaning progressive talking point now. That's seen as being progressive. If you want children to be taught Black history, that's seen as being progressive. But what is Congress doing? Led by a Black man, ousting all of the progressives. That's what we got going on.
And then you could also look at it as, I always look at what businesses do too, because I feel like you need to really look at which businesses are donating to which candidate. They're pretty even-handed, but I feel like the parties have gotten too big business, right? Big business doesn't benefit me, especially when you look at a lot of these large tech companies. We're not even represented there anyway. So they're cozying up with like the Silicon Valley elites, getting rid of diversity, equity, and inclusion. I think Sherm calls it the inclusion and diversity now. They've rebranded to inclusion and diversity. They don't care about equity. Like, you can't screw people over for hundreds of years and then go, we're sorry, figure it out. Like, I'm still upset about the affirmative action decision, but we say nothing about legacy admissions. Mediocre, rich people getting into schools. But when we get into a school, it's got to be because of affirmative action. When you get the job over somebody white, you have to be a diversity hire.
I mean, let's talk about our issues. Since we want to be Black over here, Let's talk about our issues, and that's my issue with the CBC, and that's why I have no faith in the CDC right now, because y'all are just allowing this stuff to happen, sitting idly by, just being quiet about it. Nothing to see here, and I don't give, even if Congress does flip. What is this going to do for our black asses? Because they're going to look for our black asses to go out there and vote and help them flip Congress. But then when the rubber hits the pavement, we ain't getting shit. At the beginning of Joseph Robinette's term, did he not have both the House and the Senate? Did he not? You had the House, you had the Senate, you had the White House, and you still couldn't give us the John Lewis Voting Right Act. You still couldn't give us the George Floyd bill. None of it. And we know those directly affect black people. Directly. And y'all set your asses down there silent.
Twiddling their thumbs. And then it's like, we are literally 13% of the population, but we can never get legislation that benefits us. And when you look at it, if it was not for us,
none of the minorities would
immigration wouldn't be a thing in America. It wouldn't be. And there's so many people that don't know the history of this country and how racist and xenophobic it was.
Unfortunately, Cymera, you said we need to vote the older generation out. Unfortunately, that's how it has to be. Here's what's going to happen. What we're talking about right now with Cori Bush. AIPAC wants no parts of the older generation out because they know those older generations are aligned with Israel and are going to do nothing to stop AIPAC and what they're doing. So AIPAC is going to fund the campaigns of those older centrist Democrats in the CBC. I'm just telling you what I know.
These folks got to go.
Unless we have a real grassroots efforts like my girl Summer Lee had over there, because they tried. AIPAC did everything they can and she still beat them. That's what we got to have. And the CBC need to wake up and start looking out for their own, because every other caucus look out for their own.
The Jewish caucus been winning. Been winning.
I'm just saying. But yeah.
And
I owe y'all some things about Tim Walz. I ain't saying nothing because I lost my mind. Okay, let me get through all. I'm gonna finish out Tim Walz and then we go see our final stuff. I just checked on the polls over in I just checked. Here's the update on the polls in Missouri. I'll give you the update after. I do have an update. A good update too on the polls over in Missouri. I'll give you those right after I do my Tim Walz. All right, let me get through the rest of these Tim Walz. 41 in December 2023, he was tapped to chair the Democratic Governors Association, responsible for defending and growing the party's share of chief executives in the states. 42, his beverage of choice is Diet Mountain Dew. He got a DWI in Nebraska in 1995 before he quit drinking. Look for that to be something that that the Republicans try to bring out. I'm sure he already told, he was already vetted on that, but look for that to be something that they try to exploit. 43, he is a runner who has participated in multiple competitions in Minnesota's Twin Cities. 44, he likes to tinker on his vintage blue International Scout, a four-wheel drive vehicle that International Harvesters stopped producing in 1980. 45, he has custom license plate that read 1MN for Minnesota, his campaign slogan for his gubernatorial bid. 46, he promised his son Gus a dog if he won the governorship in 2019. When the election was called, Gus exclaimed, quote, "I get a dog," end quote. Walz kept his promise by adopting Scout, a black lab mix, later in the year. 47, Walz and the dog Scout make daily morning visits to an off-leash Twin Cities dog park. 48. Walz signed a bill last May expanding voting rights for an estimated 55,000 formerly incarcerated residents. That's what Kamz was talking about earlier. 49. He met with the Ukrainian ambassador to the United States to sign a letter of understanding that creates an agricultural partnership between Minnesota and a northern region in Ukraine called Chernihiv. Quote, once we drive the Russians out, we will have some cooperation. It's a really important showing of friendship and a real important showing of ties, end of quote. 50. In 2023, he signed an executive order protecting access to gender affirming care. Quote, as states across the country move to ban access to gender affirming care, we want LGBTQ Minnesotans to know they will continue to be safe, protected, and welcome in Minnesota, end of quote. 51. His tater tot hot dish, the unofficial dish of Minnesota, is three-time champion of the Minnesota Congressional Delegation Hot Dish Off. He won in 2013, 2014, and 2016. I'm almost done, y'all.
It's a casserole.
52. He is a self-proclaimed sci-fi fantasy guy when it comes to books. Quote, I just finished reading the 4-book series Mortal Engines. I read a lot of these young adult ones, but I do it with my kids. I was reading that one with Gus, and then I just finished one I would not suggest reading because it is terrifying. Command and Control. It traces the history of America's nuclear arsenal, end of quote. 53. His favorite song by Bob Dylan, one of Minnesota's most famous celebrities, is Forever Young. I like Forever Young too, which contains a timeless message from a dad to his son, according to Walz. 54. I like Patti LaBelle's version of Forever Young. Go look it up. Great version. 54. He enjoys the all you can drink milk booth at the Minnesota State Fair, so much so that he volunteered at the booth in 2022. And the last one, 55, he is a self-described optimist, but when it comes to the government, he tries to plan for the worst. Quote, I think people should have an expectation of forward-leaning, anticipatory government. A lot of things people write off as accidents or chance is really just poor planning and anticipation. End of quote. Those are 55 interesting things. I told you all that I would give you updates. The updates on the Missouri race with 41% of the vote in, 41%. The race is much closer. Wesley Bell is still in the lead with 54.9% of the vote, which is 29,240 votes. Corey Bush now has 41.8% of the vote with 22,244 votes. And the third candidate, Maria Chappelle Nadal, has 2.6% of the vote with 1,399. And that's with 41% of the votes in. There are still 77,000 votes remaining. That is the update. So it is much closer than it was.
Hopefully she survives because Ilhan Omar's primary is next week. She's looking a lot better than Bush, though. She's up, I think, 27 points. Because nobody likes the other guy. Nobody likes him.
So we'll look at that next week. At her race next week. I feel like she'll win.
I think she'll win handily.
Yeah. Because she's in an area that has a large Arab American population. So
she her district encompasses Little Somalia.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't think that she is well, hell, Corey Bush's district is primarily black, and here we are. Anyway, I I kind
Well,
of
the candidates are both black though, so there is that. They've been very surgical in the
Yep.
candidates that they vet and run against these incumbents.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And they just like with Jamal Bowman, there's a huge Jewish population there, and so they made sure that they tapped into that when they ousted him. So that's our update. We probably won't get the final tally on the Cori Bush until late tonight. It probably won't be called until much later tonight. If not in the morning. So we're still hoping for that. Kamz, tell the people what to look out, what to look forward to, what they need to be looking for right now. Politically, what do they need to be watching?
I would say do not let this presidential election distract you. You need to be looking at your congressional representative. What is their policy? What are their positions? You need to be looking at your county. You need to be looking at your city. These federal things are so abstracted from us, but your local politics directly impact you on a day-to-day basis. So I think a lot of us focus up here, when we need to be focused down here a lot more. So pay attention to those local elections. They really do matter.
I'm going to say what you need to be looking at is I would have to agree with Kamz. You need to look at your state legislatures, your state senate, your state house. These are the people who really affect you most. They can touch your lives more than anyone else. And that's what's important. 2024 should not be about Washington D.C. 2024 should be about your local municipalities and your state governments. That's what you really need to focus on. Scrolling at the bottom are ways for you to contact us or donate to the platform. My Instagram is down there. Kam's Instagram is down there, as well as our Cash Apps are there. We do put work into putting this show together, and certainly we enjoy doing it. We will be back next week, Tuesday, hopefully with a guest. I'm trying to get my frat brother Sean Kinsey, who's in the chat, who's very politically inclined, trying to get him up here with us next week. And we're going to talk some more stuff. Trust me, it'll be a lot more to talk about. Trust me. And we'll keep track of all of the things going on throughout the week so that we can have stuff for y'all next week. Feel free to hit us up on Instagram and things like that. If with a DM, if you have ideas or suggestions, or you see certain things, even in your local areas that you may want us to talk about, feel free to do that. And lastly, make sure you come with your questions, okay? Make sure you come with your questions, and we'll do everything we can to answer those questions for you. I hope y'all enjoyed tonight as much as we did. Any last words for the people?
Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being active and engaged. I love seeing us be more involved in the electoral process.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much for being here. America may be red, it may be blue, but we will always be black. And certainly we'll give you those things that affect us in our lives. That's all we got for y'all. Thank y'all so much. Until next time, we out of here, y'all.